In the confusing time of our 21st century, we humans chase luxury. Whether that be for automobiles, clothing, or even food, humans love to be innovative, creative, and unique. One way we showcase this is through architecture. For many, their residence is one of their most valued assets and very dreamed of from ideas like the American dream. However, such dream of becoming a homeowner has environmental downsides behind the scenes. The materials used to build a home and especially the production of energy to fuel these homes comes at a great cost from not only your wallet but also from Mother Nature. Statistically, emissions related to commercial and residential buildings are one of the biggest out of various industries, taking up a total amount of 31% of the total emission recorded in the United States. We here at Maclay Architects questions why such dreams have come at a great downside to our environment. That is why we have decided to lead the market into the new age of architecture called the net zero building. By definition, net zero building is a simple idea that evolves around how efficiently you can make these houses. One of the main ways a home can become a net zero building is through the employment of solar panels, which have had a significant breakthroughs over the recent years. This allows the buildings to make the energy it needs for itself. One of the famous examples of a net zero building is the United States Therapeutics Unisphere. It is one of the largest net zero buildings in the world, and it does this by using 2,976 solar panels, darkening windows, and 52 gas exchange wells, and much more to be net zero. Another famous example of a net zero building is the SCG 0+. It is considered the first 5-0 office, meaning that the building has zero carbon, zero water, zero energy, zero waste, and zero formaldehyde, making it truly impressive considering its size. We here at Maclay Architects believe that regular people should also partake in this great endeavor. Net zero building does indeed cost more, as it is about $175 per square foot, while a regular building costs $132 per square. But net zero building can save around $496 a year for an average American household in electricity bills. We also value the importance of design as we continue to make the homes more efficient while keeping the design requirements asked by the customer. We estimate that 9.7% of new buildings could become net zero by 2050, with a cumulative emission reduction of 7.1 gigatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. We guarantee durable build quality and construction that can always be satisfactory to the customer. Our mission is to protect the environment, clean the air, purifying the ocean, saving the ice, all while passing it down to the next generation so they can experience the same joy. Maclay Architects, be the change you want to see.
Alright, kids, it's time to read a bedtime story about one of the best sources of renewable energy in today's market, wave and tidal energy. So let's turn on our soothing ocean sounds ASMR and begin. Wave and tidal energy is a heavily untapped resource in renewable energy. We currently lack the infrastructure to use it, and the technology required for this to be a feasible energy source is around 25 years behind in comparison to other energy sources like solar and wind. However, it is the future for a consistent renewable energy source to work alongside other energy sources to replace fossil fuels. Using this energy source will reduce carbon emissions by around 9.2 gigatons, making it the 29th best method to reduce emissions. However, it has a very high net cost of $411.8 billion and will lose money through investment and technological development for a while before any economic turnout is acquired, and approximately $1 trillion will be lost in savings. Tidal generators and wave generators are very similar but use slightly different concepts to produce electricity. Tidal energy is often produced by utilizing the flow of the tides to spin an underwater turbine, and since water is 800 times more dense than air, the turbines can produce more energy than a wind turbine of similar size. Tidal energy can also be generated by using the pressure difference between two sides of a dam to spin a turbine and create power. Wave energy is different, as the generators sit atop the water's surface, using the waves to generate power. There are a few different types of wave generators: oscillating water columns, oscillating body converters, overtopping converters, buoys, etc. However, they use two main concepts to make energy, either using the height differences of waves to pressurize air and drive a turbine, or using a buoy-type object floating atop the water moving with the waves to pull magnets and generator coils under the water, creating electricity. The main strength of this type of energy is its predictability, as the tides and waves occur at a regular rate. Thus, this energy source hypothetically could power all the homes in the US if we created the infrastructure to harness this energy. But why haven't we? Dealing with the ocean is very difficult. Since water is dense, turbines must be strong enough to withstand the constant flow of water. But the main issue is the corrosive nature of seawater and the life forms within it. The saltiness of seawater degrades electronics upon contact, and things like barnacles and algae grow on the generators, clogging them or stalling them. Thus, in order to use this amazing energy source, we must overcome these weaknesses. It's time to go to sleep. The fossil fuels can't hurt you.
Have you ever wondered how glass can be smart? Today, we're about to explore exactly how that would be possible. What is it exactly and how does it work? More importantly, why should we care? Let's start with the basics. Smart glass, also known as switchable glass or dynamic glass, isn't your average window. It's a marvel of modern technology using chemistry to change how we interact with our environment. Imagine this, with a simple switch or button press, smart glass can instantly go from clear to opaque, giving you privacy or blocking out harsh sunlight. How does it do this? It's all thanks to chemistry. Smart glass contains special materials that react to things like electricity or temperature changes. For example, electrochromic glass, a common type of smart glass, has layers of materials like tungsten oxide and lithium ions. When a small electrical charge is applied, these materials react, making the glass transparent or opaque. Now, why should we care about smart glass? Well, it makes life easier and more comfortable. You can adjust your window to let in just the right amount of light and reduce glare. But it's not just about the convenience. Smart glass also saves energy. By controlling sunlight, it helps regulate indoor temperatures, cutting down on the need for heating and cooling. And for architects and designers, smart glass opens up endless possibilities. It lets you create spaces that can change instantly, going from open to private with the flip of a switch. And so, smart glass isn't just cool tech, it's a game changer. It revolutionizes how we use space, making buildings more comfortable, efficient, and adaptable. Thanks to chemistry, smart glass is reshaping our world for the better.
Hello everyone! Today I'll be discussing landfill methane, focusing on its capture and utilization. Methane, produced from the decomposition of organic waste in landfills, is a potent greenhouse gas. The goal is to capture this methane to reduce its environmental impact and use it as a renewable energy source. So, how does it work? Methane production in landfills occurs when organic waste decomposes anaerobically. This process generates methane CH4 and carbon dioxide CO2. The capture system, a network of wells and pipes, collects methane gas. The collected methane is then processed to remove impurities like CO2, water vapor, and hydrogen sulfide. This purified methane can be used for various purposes, such as generating electricity, providing heat, or being upgraded to pipeline quality natural gas. Landfills are the third largest source of human related methane emissions in the US, following the oil and gas industry and agriculture. Methane's high global warming potential makes it a significant contributor to climate change, and capturing methane can drastically reduce these emissions and help combat global warming. Methane has a global warming potential 28 to 36 times greater than carbon dioxide over a 100-year period. According to the EPA, capturing methane from U.S. landfills can reduce emissions by approximately 100.9 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent annually. Implementing landfill gas projects involves installation costs, but the long term benefits are substantial. These projects generate revenue from the sale of captured methane as a renewable energy source. They also create jobs in the construction and operation of landfill gas facilities. Additionally, using captured methane can lead to significant cost savings by reducing environmental compliance costs and replacing more expensive fossil fuels. The biochemical pathways involved in methane production from organic waste include several stages: hydrolysis, the breakdown of complex organic compounds into simpler ones; acetogenesis, conversion of simple compounds into volatile fatty acids; acetogenesis, formation of acetic acid from volatile fatty acids; and methogenesis, production of methane and CO2 from acetic acid. In conclusion, capturing and utilizing landfill methane is essential for reducing greenhouse gas emissions, generating renewable energy, and supporting economic growth. These are my sources. I hope you learned something, and thank you for listening.
Our oceans absorb around 1/4 of the carbon dioxide that we produce and about 90% of the planet's excess heat. The temperature of the ocean has been increasing due to climate change. Our oceans are forced to absorb more heat due to the decreased solubility of CO2 that causes the carbon dioxide to escape into the atmosphere and warm the Earth even more, which leads to extreme weather and destroyed ecosystems. But people have found a solution: ocean farming and marine permaculture. Ocean farming is cultivating aquatic animals or plants such as seaweed, mussels, and scallops. Marine permaculture is farming in a sustainable and self-sufficient way. It mimics the ocean's process of delivering cool, nutrient-rich water to grow and feed kelp and marine life closer to the surface. The idea is to employ marine permaculture arrays, or MPAs, 0.4 square miles in size, that would recreate entire marine ecosystems. Buoys attached to the MPAs rise and fall with the waves to power pumps that bring up cold water from hundreds of feet below sea level, and these nutrient-laden waters that come up provide seaweed and kelp with nutrients to grow. As they grow, fish begin to feed on them, and more sea life is attracted to the kelp forest, producing a small ecosystem. Growing kelp and seaweed forests with marine permaculture can benefit the entire world. This kelp can be used for food, fertilizer, bioplastic, and biofuel. For kelp harvest, each dry ton of kelp gets rid of a ton of carbon dioxide, and they can fix 3,000 tons of carbon dioxide per square kilometer, which is more than tropical rainforest. Carbon fixation is when carbon dioxide is converted into something organic. This is what happens in the Calvin cycle. So with a million MPAs active for 30 years, the carbon dioxide reduction would equal 12.1 parts million, or 102 billion tons.
What more are you looking for under the sea? Under the sea.
Good morning, Teal AP Chem students. This is Liv reporting from Channel 6, and we are coming to you from Lake Forest, Illinois. Today is Tuesday, May 28th. Our top story today is waste to energy. JD is on location with the details. Over to you, JD.
Hey Liv, I'm on site at the world's best waste-to-energy plant. Today, we can see the 4 practical ways of waste-to-energy, including incineration, gasification, pyrolysis, and plasma gasification. Fun fact: reuse limits landfilling, which involves burying trash producing methane gas, which is very bad for the environment. Did you know methane is a greenhouse gas that is up to 34 times more powerful than CO2?
Hi, welcome back. Let's first discuss the bad solutions, or regret solutions, which have a positive impact on overall carbon emissions, but have other high social and environmental impacts that are harmful to the environment. One example of this is landfilling, which involves burying trash, and this can be very difficult in countries that have not a lot of space. And it also is very bad for the environment and contributes to health problems. Which involves burning trash. Modern day incinerators use very high temperatures while also using scrubbers and filters. The scrubbers and filters help capture a lot of the pollutants, but not everything. The solution we'll talk about is gasification, a process that converts organic or fossil-based materials containing carbon at high temperatures without combustion with a controlled amount of oxygen and/or steam into carbon monoxide, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide. The solution we have is plasma gasification. It is a waste treatment technology that consists of electricity and high temperatures in order to turn waste into energy without using combustion.
Pyrolysis. This process is a thermochemical treatment that involves exposing an organic, carbon-based product to high temperatures, and in the absence of oxygen, it will go through chemical and physical separation into different molecules.
AD again. Let's go over some more facts and figures on waste to energy. Waste to energy ranks number 68 in comparison to all methods of CO2 reduction. The practice of waste to energy can also possibly reduce 1.1 gigatons of CO2. And the net cost is $36 billion, but when compared to other waste management, the net savings is $19.8 billion for waste to energy. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining Channel 6 this morning.
Hi everyone, I'm Leo, and today I'm going to talk about peatlands and forest protection. First of all, what is peatland protection? Peatland protection involves preserving and restoring wetland areas where peat, a dense carbon-rich organic material, accumulates. These areas are critical for carbon storage, water regulation, and biodiversity conservation. Protecting peatlands prevents carbon release and maintains their ecological functions. Next, what is a mire? A mire is a wetland in which the dead plant matter of the mire vegetation cannot be decomposed entirely by microorganisms. Due to the waterlogged site conditions, the plants consist of carbon, which is then sequestered into the mire deposits. We call this dead organic matter peat, and over time the mire vegetation develops into peatland. Peatland in the temperate climate region thus grow 0.5 to 1 millimeter in height per year. All over the world, peatlands have developed undisturbed over centuries to millennia and have removed large amounts of carbon from the global carbon cycle. What is the current state of peatlands worldwide? Globally, peatlands cover only 3% of the land surface, but they store twice as much carbon in their peat as all the forests on Earth, which cover 30% of the land surface worldwide. Only 15% of peatlands have been drained, which is about 0.4% of the global land surface. However, this today causes 5% of all man-made greenhouse gas emissions. The majority of the world's drained peatlands are used for agriculture. Conventional agriculture drains peatlands and manages water levels by digging ditches and installing drainage infrastructure. Drained peatlands are usually used in agriculture for the production of hay or grazing of animals, often in intensive regimes with 2 to 3 cuts per year. And high fertilizer application peatlands are also converted to arable land for further uses such as maize, cultivation for animal feed production, or biogas production. Drainage causes the water levels in the peatland to fall, and the once waterlogged peat is exposed to oxygen, allowing aerobic microorganisms to convert the organic substance stored in the peat. Thus, the sequestered carbon is released to the atmosphere as carbon dioxide. Protecting and restoring peatlands could reduce CO2 emissions by up to 500 million tons annually, or 0.5 gigatons. This helps mitigate climate change and stabilize global temperatures. Restoring peatlands costs from several hundred million to a few $billion, depending on scale and region. However, the long-term benefits far exceed these costs. Healthy peatlands offer water purification, flood control, and biodiversity habitat, providing significant financial benefits and making restoration a sound investment. Thank you for listening to my video.
The Northern Hemisphere, from the U.S. desert to the parched shores of China's Yangtze River, extreme droughts endangered economies and lives.
We are already seeing the fingerprints of climate change in the droughts that we've seen, and climate change is already hitting us hard.
Weather across the South, more than 150,000 customers affected from Georgia to Texas.
We are making life on Earth increasingly hazardous in ways that we are not at all prepared for. Do you think that that's overstating it?
No, I think that's exactly right.
In the past 20 years, extreme weather events have increased by 83%. Extreme weather events are occurrences of unusually severe weather or climate conditions. This can include extreme downpours, tornadoes, freezes, floods, and heat waves. Extreme weather events can cause devastating impacts globally. Much of this damage is due to human activity, including the burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and livestock. When we take a look at every extreme weather event since 2011, we see that the majority of these events were caused by human activity. Human activity causes these extreme weather events because it disrupts the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle is a naturally occurring seasonal cycle where plants photosynthesize and it removes large amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Respiration and decomposition of plants and animals releases carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. This process naturally works to rid the atmosphere of carbon dioxide. However, human activities burning fossil fuels has released carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. Atmospheric carbon dioxide levels have increased 38% as of 2009 and are higher than at any time in the past 800,000 years. Greenhouse gases absorb heat energy in the atmosphere and emit it in all directions, including downwards. This keeps the Earth's surface and lower atmosphere warm, which contributes to climate change. The increase in these greenhouse gases increases the temperature of Earth's surface and therefore causes extreme weather. Since pre-industrial times, the atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide has increased by over 40%, methane has increased by 150%, and nitrous oxide has increased by roughly 20%. Increases in all three gases contribute to the warming of the Earth, with the increase in carbon dioxide playing the largest role. So, what can we do about it?
Welcome to Shark Tank. We have 3 contestants here today who will present their propositions to preventing global warming and extreme weather. Bikes.
The sharks are not impressed.
Global warming isn't even real. Next, get out! Hello, sharks. I have a proposal for you. Public transportation, consuming less, and recycling, using energy wisely by turning off the lights, taking shorter showers, and air drying clothes. We can make a real impact if we all put in a little effort to save our planet. Thank you. I would like to offer you $1 million for 10% ownership.
I'll do you better. $3 million for 0% ownership.
Woo! I can't believe I got $3 million with 0% ownership. Oh my!
Hi, I'm Josh, and today I'm gonna talk about refrigeration. Imagine grabbing a bottle of Coke in the refrigerator and drink it during the hottest day in the summer. How does it relate to science? Well, the refrigeration process played a huge role in it. 30 years ago, a group of scientists found out there is a huge hole in the ozone layer near the South Pole, which is a serious problem. Because of the importance of ozone layer, which reduced the amount of UV ray that could damage the life of organisms. Therefore, the researchers are trying to figure out what caused this to happen. They found out that the one causing the issue is the coolant that was used inside the refrigerator that is called CFC, which is extremely harmful when it comes to the formation of ozone. During the production of ozone, it exists in a state of equilibrium, as shown. However, the CFC was released into the atmosphere. Exposure to UV rays will disrupt the chemical link, resulting in the presence of chlorine. Both oxygen and chlorine have unpaired electrons, which allow them to form a bond. The reason for the decrease in ozone is the reduced availability of oxygen to form O2 due to its bonding with chlorine. After realizing the problem, the governments come up with a policy which is banning the using of CFCs, and we can see the ozone is healing. Here's a comparison with the ozone now and before. We can see that the hole size is decreasing. After this video, I strongly encourage you to check if you got any old refrigerator left in your house and get rid of that refrigerator. Thank you.
Almost all energy we use comes from the sun, and most of it from photosynthesis, which is a process by which plants use sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide to create oxygen and energy in the form of sugar. Photosynthesis is a relatively simple process. Plants take in sunlight, water from the soil, and carbon dioxide, all to produce oxygen and glucose, which is also known as sugar. Looking deeper into this process, as plants take in carbon dioxide and water, a photon, a particle of light energy, from the sun reaches into the plant cell into the chlorophyll, which is within the chloroplast of the cell and gives the plant their green pigment. As a photon reaches within the chlorophyll, it causes an electron to become excited, giving it lots of energy, allowing it to break free from an atom, where it will then donate this electron. This electron then becomes replaced by splitting a water molecule, which will release oxygen and hydrogen ions and produce byproducts. These byproducts consist of oxygen being released and hydrogen ions helping convert solar energy into chemical energy used in a later reaction called the Calvin cycle, where carbon atoms are fixed into organic molecules. However, with the growing need for energy, our society has to keep up with demand. This has led to the creation of power plants, as they're an abundant energy source providing a reliable and large-scale supply of electricity. Despite its environmental drawbacks, we still rely on these power plants. So the question arises, how can we provide enough energy to power our world while still being sustainable? This was answered by scientist Daniel Nocera, who developed the artificial leaf, a device mimicking photosynthesis to produce energy. Following the rules of photosynthesis of sunlight and water, rearranging its bonds to make hydrogen and oxygen, he hypothesized a new efficient process to create clean fuel without hurting the environment or needing expensive materials. Using a silicone wafer coated with catalyst, the artificial leaf works just from a glass of water, splitting hydrogen and oxygen when exposed to sunlight. This process isn't all new, and the real overstepping moment was when Nocera implemented self-repairing catalysts, just as leaves are able to self-repair. One question you may still be asking is, how will this keep up with the high demand for energy? Instead of working to scale, Nocera plans to make more artificial leaves with inexpensive metals and hand them out, creating an affordable and efficient solution. Bypassing the need for expensive power plants that also damage our atmosphere and cost money, this new invention could keep up with our growing demand for energy, but it's all dependent on how badly we want to save our future.
Hi everyone, this is William, and I will talk about bioplastic today. Before we talk about bioplastic, I want to introduce plastic. Plastics are versatile, based on petroleum or natural gas, high in durability, low in weight, and incredibly cheap. Okay, now let's talk about bioplastic. It has the same physical properties as petroplastic, but it's based on renewable fat stocks, including insect exoskeletons and plants. Also, they are more expensive than traditional plastic. Now let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of bioplastic. Bioplastic has many benefits compared to plastic, such as reducing emissions and sequestering carbon. Also, some of them can be decomposed. However, to fulfill the need for renewable fat stock, the production fee of bioplastic is much higher than that of traditional plastic, which causes the price of bioplastic products to be much higher than that of regular plastic products. Also, to replace petroplastic, much more land on Earth needs to be converted to farmland to produce fat stock for bioplastic. Okay, now's the most important part. The chemistry of bioplastic. Both petroplastic and bioplastic comprise polymers, mainly consisting of many small particles strung together like chains. These tiny particles are known as monomers. Just like the graph shown below, some monomers, after polymerization, they became a chain-like structure named polymer. And unlike petroplastic, bioplastic polymers came from cellulose, starch, or vegetable oil. Plastics are hard to decompose because strong intermolecular forces, such as the London dispersion force and hydrogen bond. Microorganisms do not have the enzyme that can decompose them. They can't recognize the bonds that hold the plastic. This is because plastics is a relatively new material on Earth, and most microorganisms still can't decompose it. Some bioplastic can be decomposed because they are made from plant biomass, which can break down easily. One common misconception is that all bioplastic are biodegradable, but only some of them can be. For example, some shopping bags made from sugarcane or corn are not biodegradable. In contrast, some disposable cups made from natural materials can be recycled under the right conditions. Then I want to discuss the impact of bioplastics on economy and environment. Let's talk about its impact on economy first. So the cost of producing bioplastic are $19 billion over 30 years. Even though the cost of bioplastic is high, the market for them keep growing. By 2032, the market for bioplastic will hit $63.84 billion. Now let's talk about its impact on environment. By 2014, 311 million tons of plastic had been produced, and based on this number, scientists estimated that at least 792 million tons of plastic would be produced by 2050. If bioplastic can capture 49% of the plastic market by 2050, it can avoid 4.3 gigatons of CO2 emissions. And here's my works cited page. Thank you.
While other forms of reducing our carbon footprint require wide-scale systemic change, funding, and time to implement, one effective way to help combat climate change is something that anyone can do in their lives. Switching to a plant-based diet and being conscious of our meat consumption by consuming other alternatives is a key step in helping save our environment. I have a quick recipe shown for an alternative meal idea that will help reduce carbon emissions through its plant-based ingredients. Raising livestock is a major environmental issue as livestock farming contributes to about 15% of annual global greenhouse gas emissions. The energy consumption needed to grow livestock feed produces huge amounts of carbon dioxide emissions. In fact, if cattle were their own country, they would be the world's third largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Cows in particular generate methane, a greenhouse gas significantly more potent than carbon dioxide. Methane, CH4, and nitrous oxide, N2O, are two of the most impactful greenhouse gases. Methane is 20 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere compared to carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide produced due to cow, sheep, and goat digestion and nitrogen fertilizer in feed production captures infrared radiation and warms the troposphere, exacerbating the greenhouse effect. Methane, carbon dioxide, and nitrous oxide allow shorter wave radiation to pass through and absorb this longer wave infrared radiation, which causes the molecules of the greenhouse gases to vibrate more than they were before, which heats the atmosphere. Methane is a very effective greenhouse gas, and while it has a smaller atmospheric concentration than carbon dioxide, it is 20 times more effective at trapping infrared radiation. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations estimates that if 50 to 70% of the people reduce meat consumption overall while maintaining 2,300 calories a day, 54.19 to 78.48 gigatons of emissions would be avoided from dietary changes alone. A 2016 Oxford study modeled the climate, health, and economic benefits of a worldwide transition to a plant-based diet as the standard production emissions would be reduced by 70% through a vegan diet. The global mortality rate would be reduced by 6 to 10%, and $1 trillion would be saved in annual healthcare costs per million lives. Based on Project Drawdown, a plant-based diet is ranked number 4 as the most effective way to combat climate change. Few climate change solutions of this magnitude lie in the hands of individuals and are this close to the turnpike.
Did you know that women, girls, and allies are very powerful forces in climate action?
Women. Girls.
Climate change disproportionately affects women.
Women's
Believe
rights.
it or not, women play a
Global
prominent role
warming.
in reversing the effects of global warming. Women are the primary farmers of the world and produce 60 to 80% of food in lower income countries, often operating on fewer than 5 acres. Although they farm as capably and efficient as men, women often have less access to resources. This means women produce less food on the same amount of land as men. If we close these gaps, 20 to 30% of more food will be produced from the same field or garden that are managed by women. We know that there's a strong link between education and better health for women and their children. Basically, education provides women with the means to more options, adaptability, and strength.
3. Family planning, autonomy, and dignity. Access to high-quality, voluntarily reproductive health care, and by enforcing a woman's right to decide to have children by choice rather than by chance, is another strong aspect to addressing our climate crisis. In the US alone, 45% of pregnancies are unintended. In lower income countries, 214 million women say they want to decide whether and when to become pregnant, but aren't using contraception. If we as a society just stop listening to women's needs and instead listen and address these needs, we can advance equity and well-being. Through this, we could dramatically reduce demand for food, transportation, electricity, buildings, goods, and more, which will therefore reduce the CO2 emissions in our atmosphere. It is possible to narrow the gap of inequity so that by mid-century we will have 1 billion fewer humans inhabiting Earth. With 1 billion less people on the planet, we could avoid nearly 120 billion tons of emissions. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Countries where women have more access to social, political, and educational resources and statuses have proven to have lower carbon dioxide emissions and lower their carbon footprint.
Food waste is the third largest contributor to climate change around the world today. Of all food produced in the world, 30% of it ends up being wasted. This equals up to 614 kilocalories per person every single day. This is the equivalent of 12 eggs. The US in 2023 alone produced over 19.4 million tons of food waste, which is third in the world after India, which produced 68 million tons, and China, which produced 90 million. Food waste is a huge issue because when food is wasted, all the resources like water, land, and energy that come with making the food are also wasted. The amount of water wasted last year is enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool 100 million times. Additionally, food waste produces over 10% of all greenhouse gas emissions. This happens because when food sits in landfills, the food on the bottom cannot be properly exposed to the oxygen in the air, which causes an unnatural decomposition process that produces methane and CO2 gas. When it comes to reducing food waste, there are 3 major things that we can do to reduce it. This includes improving farming efficiency, improving storage, and only buying what we will eat. Increasing farming efficiency really comes down to eliminating as many pests and diseases as possible, as 20 to 40% of crops are wasted while on farms. Farming machines are also only designed to cut the top 2/3 of a crop to prevent dirt from getting in. However, designing them differently so that they can remove the whole crop could greatly increase efficiency. Storing food is also incredibly difficult, as if food is too moist or too hot for too long, it can go bad. Improving the transportation of food would have a great impact on reducing food waste. If all countries had access to high-quality refrigeration, we could reduce food losses by up to 25%. And lastly, the easiest thing we can all do to reduce food waste is to only buy what we know we'll eat. At school, when we get lunch from stew, we should try to start with small portions and get seconds if we're more hungry. If we work together, we can come to reduce over 90 gigatons of CO2 by 2050 and save Americans over $408 billion every year.
Green roof, also known as garden roof, living roof, vegetative roof, or eco-roof. A green roof is essentially a thin layer of vegetation installed on a traditional flat or pitched residential or commercial roof. Living roofscapes depend on a series of carefully designed layers that ensure the roof itself is protected, rainwater is filtered and drained, and plants can thrive. It involves high-quality waterproofing, root repellent system, drainage system, filter cloth, a lightweight growing medium, and plant. As our city became more modern, natural land are covered by dense concentrations of pavement, buildings, and other surface that absorb and retain heat. Dense urban living without green spaces lead to a pronounced urban heat island effect. This is the relative warmth of a city compared with surrounding rural areas, which is particularly harmful to young, elderly, or ill residents. The purpose of a green roof is to provide a sort of supportive ecosystem, including natural air and water filtering, management of rainwater, and it will address urban heat island, moderating building temperature year-round, and use the moderating forces of natural ecosystem to reduce a building's carbon emission in the process. Green roof can bring many benefits such as improved air quality, help retain storm water, reduces noise pollution, and extends roof life. most important chemistry in this project is the photosynthesis that help reduce the carbon dioxide. When the water splits into hydrogen and oxygen, it undergoes an oxidation reaction as it loses hydrogen. Similarly, carbon dioxide undergoes a reduction reaction as it gains electrons. So, as a result, water is converted to oxygen gas and carbon dioxide is converted to glucose. Consider regional applications of green roof and cold roof. If green roof covers 30% of roof space and cold roof covers 60% by 2050, a total of 407 billion square feet of efficient roofing will be in place globally. Reduce carbon dioxide emission by 0.8 gigatons at a cost of 1.4 trillion. 30-year saving of 988 billion and lifetime saving of 3 trillion. At last, the ranking by 2050 is 73.
Hello everyone, my name is Sahasrat Satish, and welcome to my presentation about two truly marvelous methods of food production that greatly aid the environment by reducing greenhouse gas emissions: multi-strata agroforestry and improved rice production. To begin with, multi-strata agroforestry essentially involves, as can be inferred from the name itself, the agricultural integration of several vertical layers of tree cover above the usual crop vegetation that is grown for food production. Structurally resembling a natural forest while providing food for predominantly human rather than animal consumption, this system is highly valued for its ability to sequester carbon in the soil with multiple times greater potential than if only low-level crop vegetation were to occupy the entirety of the farmland by the process of photosynthesis, where much of the organic carbon molecules produced by consuming carbon dioxide and water from the surroundings are not only able to be stored in the soil, but also in the wood of tree trunks and branches. In the soil, carbon-based biomolecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids are able to be stored by binding on the basis of electrostatic attraction to negatively charged clay particles underground, either directly if positively charged, or if negatively charged, by binding to intermediate metal nutrient ions that are positively charged, such as magnesium or calcium ions present in the soil, which in turn bind to the clay. By evaluation of the statistics listed here, multi-strata agroforestry is ranked 28th in the list of potential solutions to global warming. Meanwhile, improved rice production also allows for increased carbon sequestration in the soil through more enhanced and balanced application of nutrients to the soil that can aid in biomolecules binding to clay, as previously mentioned. While other practices such as not tilling the soil and reducing excessive water dependence and consumption by planting rice varieties that require less water for growth, as well as alternative drying and wetting and mid-season drainage of otherwise continuously flooded rice paddies, greatly aid in decreasing methane emissions. To elaborate, flooded rice paddies are highly conducive to a process of bacterial decomposition of organic matter known as anaerobic digestion, where bacteria convert organic molecules common in plants such as cellulose and glucose in an oxygen-free environment into acetic acid and in turn into methane and carbon dioxide gas that is released into the atmosphere. By reducing these periods of flooding and aerating the soil, methane emissions are reduced as aerobic digestion only produces carbon dioxide and water. All in all, allowing for more efficient and effective water usage while simultaneously increasing crop yields, improved rice production is ranked 24th in the list of potential solutions to global warming upon evaluation of the statistics listed here. In conclusion, both multi-strata agroforestry and improved rice production are among the top land-based solutions to climate change that offer net monetary benefits for large-scale adoption in the long term, in addition to conserving time and resources for related agricultural work, ultimately enacting minimal change to the native environment in return for the betterment of the life and livelihood of this planet, Mother Earth, and all of its inhabitants. It is time for humankind across the globe to unite to combat climate change, first on the agreement to collectively improve the methods of production for the fundamental entity that sustains life, food.
change refers to the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns. These gases trap heat from the sun, causing the Earth's average temperature to rise, leading to various extreme weather events. It is largely driven by human activities, particularly the release of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide. Addressing climate change requires a global cooperation and effort to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to its effects. One way is through DAC, a groundbreaking technology designed to combat climate change by removing carbon dioxide directly from the air. Like imagining mining the sky directly, mining the sky. This is the promise of direct air capture, or DAC, a revolutionary technology designed to remove the carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere. DAC works by using large machines equipped with fans that pull in ambient air. The air passes through materials like a chemical sponge where CO2 binds with quote-unquote sticky chemicals. As of now, various materials are being tested for efficiency, including ammonia compounds, phytoorganic frameworks. When the CO2 bonds with these materials, it can then be released and stored underground, and then repeating the process over and over. And then the released non-CO2 air is then released back to the atmosphere. One effective absorbent used is potassium hydroxide, which is thermodynamically favorable when binding with CO2. However, capturing the CO2 in this process as a whole is very challenging and expensive, and very few investors are willing to risk funding the direct air capture facilities due to the limited carbon markets in the regions. And because breaking these bonds require intense heat around 800 degrees Celsius, it can drive the cost up to $600 per ton. Furthermore, since CO2 is very spread out, these machines need a lot of energy to get all the vast air. Despite this, purified CO2 can be utilized in several ways, such as transportation or enhancing agricultural fields. With this, ClimateWorks created the Mammoth DAC plant, which is 10 times larger than the first plant, capturing 36,000 tons of CO2 annually. Iceland is also home to the world's first DAC plant. Not as impressive as in the Mammoth, yet still a revolutionary feat. While DAC plants do face challenges, mainly in the economic sector, its potential to help mitigate challenges of climate change makes it a vital area of innovation and investment for our future. Despite the cost remaining high at about $1,000 per ton, if large-scale DAC systems can become fully operational, they can remove around 65 megatons or 0.065 gigatons of CO2 annually. However, currently, with only a few facilities worldwide, only 0.0001 gigatons are captured each year. Do you believe in the DAC? It may be the future that needs to be.
Temperate forests, known for their rich biodiversity and extensive lands, are essential in combating climate change. Temperate forests are found in regions with moderate climates, such as the tropical and boreal regions, and it is characterized by distinct seasons and diverse tree species. They cover parts of North America, Europe, and Asia, which takes up 25% of the world's forest area. These forests play a vital role in our ecosystem. They act as the carbon sinks, absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere and storing it in their biomass in soil. Temperate forests absorb roughly 0.8 gigatons of carbon each year, and there are opportunities for more sequestration through afforestation. However, human activities like deforestation pose significant threats to these forests. Around 99% of the temperate forests have been altered in some way. Timbered, converted to agriculture, constructed into buildings. With insufficient force to sequester carbon dioxide, the temperature continues to go up, which results in altered precipitation patterns and extreme weather events. One of the most effective solutions to avoid climate change is afforestation, the process of planting trees in areas that have not been forested for at least 50 years. Afforestation helps in multiple ways. It increases carbon sequestration, restores degraded land, improves soil quality, and enhances biodiversity. By 2050, 18.06 gigatons of CO2 could be reduced solely by afforestation. It also projects a $29.4 billion net cost and $392.3 billion net saving. If we combine afforestation and temperate forests together, we're able to sequester even more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Project Drawdown Temperate Forest Afforestation Solution presents two scenarios for restoration. In Scenario 1, 92.64 million hectares of degraded temperate forest, covering 62% of available land, are restored. Scenario 2 proposes 128.38 million hectares. These efforts in Scenario 1 result in 19.42 gigatons of CO2 sequestration, while Scenario 2 sequestered 27.85 gigatons. Countries like Mexico, India, China, and Tanzania have launched large-scale afforestation projects, with promising results in mitigating climate change and restoring ecosystems. Notably, the Kiwumba Afforestation Project in Tanzania, initiated in 1990 due to the alarming rate of deforestation, where most woods were chopped off for domestic purposes, has been very successful. In the initial 9 years of the project, 6.4 million trees were planted, significantly increasing biodiversity, reducing soil erosion, and stabilizing the climate. Temperate forests are a precious resource in our battle against climate change. By supporting afforestation and sustainable forest management, we can help protect our planet from climate changing